we're live. First live stream, so hopefully we'll get this right. I have Caden is my production manager, and he's got the laptop, he's got things ready for me so I can get this live stream going. I'm going to talk here for a minute. I'm here with this 1937 Oldsmobile engine. Very special story. I'm going to show that story at 6:30. I'm going to talk up until then. Right now, because of our antiquated setup, it's pretty antiquated. It'll get better as time goes on. Not today, but in the future, I'll get a little bit better with things. I've been to a lot of live streams, had a lot of fun in chat. And if you are here and you do see this and you're joining us, when you join, please, type in where you're joining us from. I'm hoping to get some wide viewership, hopefully all the way out to Cleveland and beyond. I have a lot of subscribers in England, even Germany. There's a bunch of people that watch in Germany, Sweden, because I have some Volvo content that I've done, and a lot of that is around the world. It's pretty amazing how the internet can kind of bring us all together just for a moment. And you can watch in privacy of your own home. Hopefully the audio is good. My production manager is going to watch comments on the back side of the screen that I can't see and make sure that if there's anyone in chat and they're typing, hopefully my production manager, Caden, can tell me if anyone's in there. Does it show anyone even watching it?
Oh, yeah. There's hi, Jay from Dale Schisler.
Hey, Dale. Dale, that's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania checking in. Thanks for coming, Dale. I appreciate it. We met in a live stream that we watch pretty much every Sunday out of Russia called, it's about a puma, basically. Macy is a full-grown mountain lion that they raise inside their house, and they have a cheetah that stays outside because she's not very house-trained. And we hang out in live chat pretty much every Sunday. And it's pretty cool, actually. So why do I have this? Why did I do this live stream kind of on a whim? A number of reasons. YouTube has been sending me messages and flagging me that, starting to get some interest in the channel. We've had a bunch of milestones that we reached. We hit 1.4 million views for the last month, which is absolutely astronomically astounding. I'm really amazed by that. I always search Facebook Marketplace, looking for vehicles, parts, cars, whatever, if something comes to interest. This came up on my marketplace, I want to say a month or two ago. Very special story behind this. I'm going to share that story because there's a plot twist that is just, it blows my mind, and it'll be really cool if it all comes together like I think it may. I thought about maybe working on this during the live stream, but I don't know if that would be interesting enough. So let's share some fun facts. This is a 1937 engine, as I understand it. I am not familiar with that. My first car was an Oldsmobile. First dealership I worked at was an Oldsmobile dealership. If you would have told me back when I was, 30 years ago that Oldsmobile and Pontiac wouldn't be with us anymore, I'd say no way, but here we are. So, I got some fun facts about the 1936 Oldsmobile. I'll tell you why 36. So, Becca, the lady that I got this engine from, this is part of a family heirloom, I would say. It was her dad's. Her family is from Cleveland, Ohio. We're in Western New York. This is Studio JZ, by the way. I don't know. Coming to you live from Studio JZ. Anyways, she lived with her family. Her dad passed, sadly, about 15 years ago, I think she said. And pardon me, Becca and Becca's family, if you're watching. Oh, hold on 1 second. Production manager's got a message.
Yeah, you're slightly out of the screen, and you also got a couple comments. So do you know Technoblade?
Technoblade?
Yeah.
I don't know Technoblade.
Me either.
Is he on in the chat?
It's from Leland Davidson.
Oh, hi, Leland.
Yeah, and
I
you
don't
also
know
got
Technoblade. If you can slide the camera and pan it ever so slightly so you can see better.
There we go.
We look good? All right.
Yeah.
What, you have another comment that I want to get to? So I apologize for our comments in chat. I don't have the laptop set up for that exactly yet, although I might be able to get to it. Well, we're working on that. One technical thing at a time.
Yeah, but I'm thankful that there were a lot of people that you got 11 people on.
Oh, wow. We've already surpassed my expectation. My expectation in the first live stream was about 10 people, which I thought would be pretty cool. But I know YouTube has been sending me stuff that they're promoting the live stream platform in the vertical platform, which is for like a cell phone. So trying it that way. Normally I would put it horizontal because that's how I was taught to take pictures so that you got the panoramic view, so to speak. But in their live stream, they are promoting the vertical thing because a majority of people that watch YouTube around the world watch it on their phones as opposed to their desktop or their TV. Like I watch a lot of YouTube on TV in our room when my wife's not around because she hates watching YouTube for some reason. I don't know, but that's her. So this 1937 Oldsmobile engine, as I understand it, was purchased for Becca's dad's vehicle. His vehicle was a 1936 Oldsmobile. There's a significance in that the vehicle was a 36, this is a 37 engine. There are some differences. I'm still trying to gather some information on whether or not they are 100% compatible. I think the displacement of this is bigger than that of the 1936. So as I understand it, the 1936 Oldsmobile, it came in a few different models, including the F36 and L36. I know nothing of vehicles in that era to know the difference between the models. Maybe one was a sedan, maybe one was a coupe. At any rate, this engine had between 90 and 100 horsepower, 213 cubic inches in an inline six-cylinder. It's flathead design, as I can see. So the valves are in the block, which is similar to like a Briggs & Stratton engine that you may have been familiar with from years back. The valves are held in the block, and they call it a flathead because there's basically a flat piece of metal. This is the cylinder head, cast and bolted down to encase everything. So that's that. Transmission in a 1936 Oldsmobile featured a 3-speed manual transmission.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that the comments mentioned it, and I forgot that in that sheet, it does have the specs for the 36, but in 37, they made some modifications. I think further down the list, when you get to it, I think it will show some of those modifications.
All right.
But
we're going to go off 36 because there's a big significance that I want to talk about, and we're going to catch that at the 6:30 mark, just because I do have anticipating some stragglers coming into the live stream. Like I said, this is kind of done on not a whim, so to speak, but done kind of in short order, and I'm not very familiar with doing the live stream. I participated in many live streams. Uncle Tony's Garage is one that I do every Sunday night and Wednesday night. He does a lot of Mopar stuff, a lot of old school mechanical stuff. So I've done the live stream on your side. I've never done the live stream on this side. So the production is going to be a little bit dicey the first time. And I will eventually get some better equipment, maybe some better lighting so we don't have a shadow, maybe better sound. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Does everyone hear me okay? If you can put a thumbs up in the chat, my production manager is monitoring the chat right now. So anyways, in the 36, they had all mechanical drum brakes in the Oldsmobile, and they used leaf spring suspension. See anything? Anyone having trouble in chat? Caden?
I'd say the sound is good, but
right.
probably the next time we're gonna need to have you
Get a microphone.
Yeah, well, mainly get a good setup for you to be able to read the comments.
Yes. I may be able to read them on here if I get set up on YouTube. My production manager, after I read some of these significant, interesting information about the 36 Oldsmobile. And so in 1936, now that's like the tail end of the Depression, the F-80 or F-36, I say F-86 like the fighter jet my dad liked. F-36 Oldsmobile had a production run of approximately 60,000 vehicles, which is, I think, a lot for the era and the time frame. So the 36 is what Becca's dad owned, and he got this engine to replace the engine that was in the car. She just sent me some pictures of the car itself. It was super cool looking. Unfortunately, due to life, they had to sell the car. It needed a lot of work, and they sold the car. And the person that bought the car, my understanding, was going to take the engine, or was supposed to take the engine, didn't take this engine. So they had it in their garage, taking up space, and as you know, life, comes around and you need the room, things going on, you're like, why do we need this here? Anyways, she listed it to see if anyone had interest or needed a 1937 Oldsmobile engine. And the wording of it was kind of like a deer whistle for me to reach out, contact her about it. I don't have a 37 Oldsmobile. I've never had a 37 Oldsmobile. I don't really know a whole lot about them. I mean, the engines back in this day are pretty, I wouldn't say simple, but, cam and block, valve and block, inline 6-cylinder, not a whole lot of power, carbureted, points, ignition. There's really not a whole lot of technical stuff to them. They were made, for torque. They pull very well. I mean, modern diesel engines in most tractor trailers are inline 6-cylinder for a reason, because they make a lot of torque. And those vehicles back then, the roads were not super improved. You didn't have a super interstate system. So those cars were mainly designed to go 50 miles an hour max, maybe 70. And you didn't need a whole lot of power. You needed a lot of torque. You put lower gears in them. I think they said they came with 456 gears from the factory, which is very low. Like, that's something you would put in like a drag car if you were drag racing. Get you off the line really fast. But just like a 10-speed bicycle, you put it in first gear, you can go really fast off the line, but then you can't go very fast in terms of miles per hour. So anyways, I don't want to get off topic with that. So the 1937 Oldsmobile, when this engine came out, introduced the independent front suspension, improving the ride comfort. So they ran leaf springs front and rear on the 36 model. The 37 model, with this engine when it came out, they ran an independent front suspension, which I don't know if you've ever driven in a vehicle with a solid straight axle. It's pretty old school. The only thing that I can think of modern day that I've driven would be like in a Isuzu truck. A Isuzu cab over truck, it's a solid front axle. They ride like a tank. They're not very comfortable. So that's why the independent suspension, when you go over, uneven roads, makes a big difference. If my production manager sees any comments that I should make mention of.
There's a hi from Jennifer Russell. So.
Oh, Jennifer Russell's joining us. Another I Am Puma live streamer who we met. Dale Schisler's here. Jennifer Russell. Jennifer Russell has a cool backstory on a family vehicle. Her grandparents, I believe, checkered, like checkered taxi. Her grandfather had one. Got pictures of it, or she sent me pictures of it. Hopefully she'll let me post them on the channel, because it is cool. It is a cool car. I don't want to get too far off topic, but I appreciate Jennifer joining us today. So the 37 Oldsmobile, which this engine came out of, boasted some improved airflow designs and better engine cooling. Of course, cooling in an engine like this, all that solid cast iron, this thing's pretty heavy. To me, I'm a little sketched out by the 4 bolts holding this thing, because I'm imagining the pressure on hopefully they're strong enough bolts. The pressure that are on those bolts, because of the length of it, is pretty significant. I actually bent this bar on my, I don't know if you can see that, my engine stand, trying to twist the engine and rotate. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I bent this bar so you can see. I've had that engine stand for probably 20 years. I bent that thing trying to rotate the engine because I had the setup a little off. So for you, those of you just joining us, at 6:30, I'm going to go over a fascinating story that came to be out of me making contact with Becca. It was kind of an ongoing thing, like, hey, did you find anyone yet? If you don't find anyone, there was a conversation or maybe the thought that if they can't sell it to anyone, maybe they would scrap it or whatever. And I just, that's like a dog whistle to me. I'm like, I don't like wasting usable things, and I think they feel the same way. Plus, it had a lot of memory and attachment because it came from her dad, right? So, what do you do with it though? You don't have a car to put it in. It's really it's useful to somebody that needs it, but you don't have a place for it. It just takes up space and it's not being used as something that you want to do something with and find it a good home. So I didn't want to see it get scrapped, and they didn't want to see it scrapped. So we came to an arrangement that is good for all parties involved. You could highlight it on this channel and talk about this. I was amazed, the linkage, even the linkage for the carburetor is free. The engine can rotate by hand. I can crank the engine over by hand, which if you saw the 59 Rambler that I got and posted on the channel, the engine was seized. It was locked up. It was stored outside. There's maybe some discrepancy, or maybe I didn't understand the full story of it, but my understanding is that the engine problem that her dad had, Becca's dad had, in 1969 was right around the time that we landed on the moon. And they got an engine to replace it. Or this engine to replace it. As I kind of understand, I thought this was a replacement engine for that car. They had a bad engine. Anyways, it's been around in her family for a very, very long time. And the significant twist is when I posted some videos regarding this engine and the fact that you can turn it by hand and all those things, I got a surprise phone call yesterday from a very good friend of mine that we go to breakfast probably once a week with another friend of ours, and he's like, "What are you doing with that Oldsmobile engine?" And I said, "I don't know. I saw it on Marketplace. It had a story. Thought, save it, maybe get it running, et cetera, et cetera." There's a significant part to that I'm going to share with you at 6:30 because I'm still expecting a few people to join us. If there's any comments that I can reply to in the chat, I got to ask my production manager about them.
Well, there's from Dale Schisler that it's a good sign that it's loose and rotating.
Yes, very good sign.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very good sign.
Yeah, I prefer when they're not seized,
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier when they are not seized. I've had a few engines in the past that are seized, and there's different methods to get them loose. The Volvo that I rescued out of New Berlin, Ohio, and Becca, if you're watching, you may know where that is. I would say it's farther than a suburb. It's like where you live compared to the city of Buffalo from Cleveland west. Small town. And I dug that, my buddy Randy and I drove out there, we dug that out of a field and dragged it home, and I got that running. That engine was seized, although I think that was mainly caused because the owner tried running it on ether and washed the cylinders down, and he took the manifolds off and it sat outside, and that was why that engine seized. The good part about that engine, they used a copper head gasket. It was able to free up each one of the pistons and then get it to rotate and put that engine back together and get it back on the road for the first time since 1978. That was the Volvo that I did a few years back. That was kind of cool, but I didn't have all the backstory of that. This engine, I have a lot of backstory on it, and my details may be cloudy, but the significance of it is Becca's dad had that car for 50 years, and this engine was supposed to go with the car, and it got separated. This was a good engine for a replacement engine for that car. They ended up selling the car, but the guy didn't take the engine. So once again, what do you do with an engine for a car that you don't have anymore, but it's kind of like a family legacy? You don't want to see it go in the trash. I don't. Anyone can use anything off it. I don't like carting things. If you have when I told my wife this story, she said, it's like, a heart transplant. You got the heart, right? So it's obviously a mechanical item. It's not a person, but the same idea. This is a beating heart for a car. If you need it, you need a heart transplant, this is a good candidate. We just got to verify that it's going to run. And to do that, this week coming up, I'm going to make sure that I can rotate it 360 degrees, check compression on all the cylinders. So you get that going. We're going to clean up the points on it. I got an ignition coil to put on it, and we'll go through the carburetor, clean it up, add a fuel system, and we're going to see if we can get it running right on the stand. I'll probably build some braces so that it's like, it's not going to rotate over. I've never run an engine on an engine stand, although I've seen it done before. This thing weighs quite a bit, so I don't want to risk it coming off the stand or falling over. So we'll do it on the stand, and I will make a lot of short videos throughout the week as I make progress, and maybe put one compilation video together from beginning to end about this engine. Today, I cleaned it up and painted it. I just took the dust and dirt off. It wasn't too bad. I just got, there was some surface rust on some of the stamped steel components, but it was obviously stored in a clean area that was dry, because I was fascinated by the fact that the engine still turned over. And my buddy Mark, who I helped him at his shop, we've been friends for 35 years plus. He was like, "Oh, it's just a hunk of metal. It should rotate." I'm like, I don't know. I kind of thought that was amazing that the engine still rotated after not running for over 50 years. When you think about that, 55 years probably, right? 69 to now, yeah, 55 years. If my math is anything good. I have to ask the engineering student if my math is. Anyways, so the reason why, like I said, I'm holding off telling, and I had to talk to Becca first. I know it probably was weird, like why I wanted to talk to her. I didn't want to put that in the text. Plus, I don't text that well, and I wanted her to hear the story that I'm going to tell you at 6:30, because it was like it gave me goosebumps. I had like chills. I couldn't believe it when my buddy called me. Very significant part of the story coming up. I think it's going to be amazing if this all works out like I think it's going to. Pretty cool. So I'm trying to get so that I can see your comments on this screen. because like I said, we kind of have a hokey setup. I think there's a way that I can hook my camera up and use the camera to live stream and then use my phone to see the comments.
Luckily, we have actually a really good comment section right now. They're kind of helping each other out
Oh,
as well.
awesome.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that.
Is there anything highlighted or anything that I need to reach out? Is Lillian or Mexican Spec in the chat at all?
Mexican Spec is, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Mexican Spec, I consider a friend of the channel. In Mexico, he has these amazing cars. Cars I've never seen before that were built for the Mexican market.
Lillian is also here.
Lillian is here too.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two of my, I would say, like YouTube compadres, people that know YouTube way better than I do. And I want them to be moderators for this channel. I just don't want to click on it. I reached out to Lillian yesterday for some tidbits. She was in the middle of something. So hopefully I can get that worked out too. But Mexican Spec, I invite you to check out his channel and see these amazing cars. And nothing like you see in Western New York in terms of cleanliness, rust-free. I mean, they're just absolutely amazing. And Mex has the ability to get them delivered to the United States. So I'll talk about that. He's got some cars that I've never seen before with options I've never seen. Like he had I'm doing this off memory. My memory's not that good, but he had like this Ford LTD, I want to say it was, station wagon with a V8 and a manual transmission from like the early 80s. It was super clean, super cool. It was cool because it was odd and it's so clean and rust-free. Let's talk about Lillian's channel. So Lillian is a linguist, teaches Russian language at a very high level, I might add. And I know Nimnoga, Lillian, a little bit of Russian, very little, from working at a truck dealership for 11 years. There's a lot of people from Eastern Europe that spoke Russian. And I had one of the good customers who lives in the same town I do, kind of became friends with him and his son, bringing trucks in over the years. He taught me all the Russian I know, and it's very little. And Lillian won't teach me any of the bad stuff. But anyways, I got YouTube pulled up. I'm trying to find the actual chat itself. Let's see if I can find this chat, because I'd love to interact with you guys. We're doing some. There we go. I found the channel. Now it's going to play a video I don't want. All right, I got the live. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. It's kind of amazing. Oh, yeah, Grant's here, one of my best friends. Oh, two of my best friends are here. Lillian is here. She's got the Cyrillic, Mexican Spec. Jennifer Russell's here. Oh, we got a lot of, this is cool. We got a lot of people here that I wasn't expecting, but I'm glad to have. Devonnie Morrison, that's a new name to the channel. Appreciate you being here. This engine is out of a 1937 Oldsmobile. We are unsure of the model it came out of. It was on the side, separated from that. Becca's dad bought it as a replacement for his car. But we don't know what this came out of. It could have came out of a F-35. I think.
If it was a 37, I'd imagine it was the F-36.
F-36.
Yeah. Well, they had the two models. I know that they had the F-37, and then they had the what was the other letter? If you look on your, I have that little sheet. I feel bad. I kind of need to remember the letter.
All right, so I got comments. So Max, I can see your comment, and I agree. I need this so that I can respond to the comments there. Dale's there. Yeah, this wasn't in a warm climate though, Dale. This was actually in Cleveland, and then came to Western New York. So this thing has not been in there. Mexican Spec. I shortened Mex. That's not his real name. We leave real names out to protect the innocent, right, Mex? He's got all the cool cars in Mexico. You should see every day he posts a new car that he got, and I can't believe how clean these things are. It makes my wife's new car look rusty. They really, and they're 40, 50, 60 years old. It's kind of amazing. So we're coming up on the 6:30 mark. So I think we got everyone in here that I was expecting. So I want to tell you about this conversation, the phone call that came through from my buddy Kevin. I borrowed Kevin's trailer to get the Volvo from Cleveland when I rescued that 544. Anyways, there's Saturn the Garage Cat coming to annoy me and jump into live stream. If you can just be quiet, we're doing things that are live right now. They don't want to hear you. She killed a mouse earlier, so I think she's just excited to tell us about it, but I got rid of the thing already. Anyways, so Kevin calls me out of the blue yesterday afternoon. What are you doing with that Oldsmobile engine? I saw you posted on the channel. I said, I just was searching Marketplace a while back, came across it, doing the Will It Run theme. I thought, well, that'd be cool. And they were looking for a home for it. I was looking for a project to feature on the channel. And we kind of, got together. So this came out of a 37 Oldsmobile. He's like, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? What's so amazing about a 37 Oldsmobile? My dad's brother, his uncle, my uncle has a 1936 Oldsmobile that he got when he was a teenager in 1959. He drove it until 1962. In 1962, the engine seized. It sat on the farm, that's his family's property, about 20 miles south of here. Sat on the farm in one of the barns into the 80s. He called his uncle in 1980, said, hey, what are you doing with this car? The building's about to fall in on it. Now the farm is 100 years old, and it was one of the outbuildings that they had this 1936. And the reason why that's significant is because Becca's dad's car was a 1936 that this was saved for. 1936 Oldsmobile, he said, sat in his family's barn till the 80s, building's falling down. He calls his uncle, what are you doing with this car? It's going to get ruined. He's like, can you bring it out to me? So my buddy Kevin, he's his flatbed, tows it out to New Jersey, where his uncle lives. It sat in New Jersey, still waiting for an engine. His uncle saved it that whole time. Probably it was his childhood car. Maybe he got it as a graduation gift or whatever. Sat in his barn until the 80s, goes to New Jersey, until 2 years ago, when his uncle said, I need to get this out of here for whatever reason. I don't know the details of that. It's really insignificant. The significant point is Kevin towed it back to a town 20 miles from here, and it's sitting 100 feet from where he was talking to me from. He says, 100 feet from where I'm sitting is a 1936 Oldsmobile that's waiting for that engine. I said, if I get this engine running, that is the match made in heaven. I can't even believe that we're having this conversation. I've known Kevin for 30 years. We used to do demolition derby stuff together, and, anyways, Kevin never told me about this car. I never saw the car. went into the outbuildings. I don't go out to his family's property too often. And I never told him about going to get this engine. It's just so random that I picked this engine up, and the exact car or exact year Oldsmobile that this was waiting for, he's got the car that needs the engine. It needs the heart transplant, so to speak. This is where my wife said, oh, it's like a heart transplant. It's been waiting. The patient has been waiting for this heart. So I hope that everything is good with this engine. And the hope is that it fits in the car that needs it. And I will film the whole thing. It's like, do you want to put an engine in a 36 Oldsmobile? Well, I'm like, absolutely now. I mean, what better story than that? So I know I painted it up just to make it look a little more presentable. You know, we're on screen here. So if this engine fits his uncle's car, which I hope to do, his uncle hasn't seen it in driving since 1962. His uncle is about 83 years old. Would that not be amazing to get that car running and driving again so he could see it before he dies? I don't want to talk morbidly, but I mean, you're in your 80s, how, you know, even if you live to 100, what are the chances that he was going to get an engine and put it in there? It's a heirloom, once again, that you don't want to throw, and it's sitting there. How many of these are in this area, New York? I'd love to touch every one of them. Obviously, I can't save them all, but that would be just amazing to be a part of. Like Flora's dad's Triumph. If you've seen the Triumph videos that I posted, the Legacy Triumph video, pretty amazing story. I talked to Flora, so I'm mentioning about getting this engine, and I tell Kevin, I'm like, yeah, I got this engine. Becca's dad passed away, and this engine's sitting there. I don't want to throw it out, trying to save it. And I said, kind of similar to Flora's dad's Triumph. Flora had this car that was given to her sister as part of the estate, the will, and that was the last piece to settle the estate was the Triumph, and it needed thousands of dollars worth of work. Some guys were coming out looking at it, basically telling her it's junk, and anyways, through communication on Marketplace, I ended up making a deal with Ford to get that car, and I said, once I'm done with it and get it running and driving, which did, actually my wife loved that car, she was upset that I sold it. I said that you would be the first to have shot at it if you wanted it. And I did a reunite video at the end of that so that Flora could drive that car, because she remembers a lot of work being done on it. Similar, you know, the car that Becca's dad had needed a lot of work. This engine was for it. Got that car running, driving again. Met her at a county park so she could drive the car. Got the video of it. Well, you can see it if you watch that video. But it was kind of cool. And then after I said, hey, I got the car running, driving, whatever. She reached out. You know, I said, I'd like to do a reunite, see you drive it, see you sitting in it. You know, get your take on your thoughts, because there's some emotional attachment to items like that, right? It's a family heirloom in a sense. Maybe it doesn't have, you know, numerical value, or, you know, it might not be, it could be, you know, a Yugo, but because it was somebody's Yugo and they remember driving it as a kid, all the special occasions, like Flora's dad's Triumph, you know, she had it for a prom and school dances and whatnot. I know the English sports car. I don't even fit in English sports car very well. I'm 6'5", so it's a little tight. Anyways, that car, she called me and she's like, I talked to my sister, we want that car. We want it back. It was almost scrapped. They almost sold it and took it to the junkyard because they had to sell the estate. The car actually shined up pretty beautifully. It was not perfect by any means. Nothing that ever sets foot on this property is perfect except for my wife and her car, right? If she's watching, maybe that gives me some brownie points. But everything I drive is something that I usually pick up that needs something. somebody who's ready to throw it away because it needs something major like an engine or a transmission or something. So I figure what better way, especially content for the channel, because this is interesting. I've never worked on in my recollection, worked on a 36 Oldsmobile or have anything from GM in that era. The oldest I've ever owned was a 1950 Packard, which was a similar situation. And I picked that car up, I got it running again. I had an inline 8-cylinder flathead. That was cool. It sounded like an airplane when it ran. It was really cool. Got that running, driving, and then sold it. That was like a decade ago. I used to have a video on my channel, but I don't think it's on there anymore. At least the engine running. So we picked this Olds engine up. We can get it running, which I hope to do this week, maybe. And it might be a little optimistic, but. And if anyone's wondering about the Wrangler American, the engine to run will need a bunch of work. I have 2 ways I can go with that car, and I'm still on the fence of which way I'm going to go. It's probably going to depend on what becomes available first, and I'll explain that maybe on a future live stream. How is Saturday afternoons for everyone in the live stream? Is there a better time or a better day? I don't know. In terms of time zones, everyone except for Mexican Spec and Lillian are in different time zones, I believe. Lillian, I know, is 3 hours behind us. Okay, Raquel Pierce, Rachel Pierce, am I saying that wrong? I can't read. Becca's sister, very cool, it makes me happy. So it makes me happy that this thing came into my realm. So I hope that in the future, how amazing would it be? Let's just say, I'm keeping optimistic. Let's say that I get this running and everything is good with it. And it fits into Kevin's uncle's car. And that deal comes to be. Maybe this winter, maybe next. Is that I know this is good? Kevin will probably drag a car out. I got a bay open. It can go right there. And we get a running engine into his uncle's car and then get his uncle's car on the road again after, 60 years? 62 years. So his uncle's car hasn't driven since 1962. That's well before I was born. If this thing could get that car running, it would be great to get Kevin's family and Becca's family all together around that car. I think that would be amazing. I think everyone would appreciate that. And definitely in terms of, at least to me, when I'm trying to think, I try to put myself in other people's shoes. How would you like to see the outcome of something related to your family when a tragedy or something like that happens? How amazing would it be to see Kevin's uncle seeing his car that he got when he, was a teenager running for the first time in 62 years with Becca's and Rachel's dad's engine that hasn't run since, well, let's assume I'm right on this fact, 1969. I'm maybe not right on that year, but this hasn't run in a long time. But still, I painted it up. I know, it's a little bit putting the cart before the horse because I don't even know the condition of the engine, but these are pretty simple in terms of mechanicalness. The fact that I can rotate this engine is pretty amazing to me. All right, I got Shopcat Industries. So any day an old car gets back on the road is a great day. I agree. And there's a great feeling about seeing cars that have sat for a long time get running again. There's just something about it. Yeah, I hope you're right, Shop. I hope you're right that this runs. I feel it's going to. And I see Becca's in chat too. Awesome. Becca's here. Lillian, I'm going through chat now. I can see it. So I apologize once again for the my technical prowess with computers, which my buddy Mark helped me with my home computer this week. I had a power supply go bad, but then he gave it a tune-up, and it's never run like this before. This is Caden's laptop that I'm using. See if I got any more in the chat that I missed. Well, I appreciate that, Dale. Dale says we're doing all right. This is the first live stream. I figure I could go an hour. Hopefully I can make it all the way to an hour. So far, no technical problems. We're gonna make some improvements for the next one. I kind of do things on whims like this. It's like, do it, see what works, see what doesn't work, and adapt. That's kind of how I treat everything, you know? I don't know, I've never worked on a 36 Oldsmobile engine before, but it's like anything else, you know, it's mechanical, you figure it out. Kind of gotta get your feet wet a little bit and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and go from there. So, you gotta get some merch for the channel. Somebody asked me about that. I got a plan for 2025 calendars that I'm working on right now. It's going to have bikini girls, and it's going to with exotic cars. They're all AI derivatives, so no computers were harmed in the making of it. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Do one for the girls too. I got Gooby Religion Channel. It's late. All right, well, that's all right. You made it. I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone showing up. We got quite a few in chat, a lot more than what I expected for the first one. So Lillian says, keep doing stream. Merchandising is a good idea. It's just something I'm going to have some fun with, Lillian, because why not, you know? I actually, you know, may have some fun with merchandise. That'll be a separate channel. I don't know. Shopcat Industries. I work with mechanics who won't change light bulbs unless they have training. Ridiculous. Yeah, unbolt stuff and, you know, yeah, exactly. That's how I grew up. I'm like, I figure if somebody else can do it, why can't I? That's kind of my attitude through life. Like you know, work on whatever. If it's the furnace for the house or the garage or whatever, if it's broken, somebody, it pains me to have somebody else come out and fix it. Like, you know, it's nuts and bolts, righty tighty, lefty loosey, unless you're threads for the left-hand side of a Wrangler American, then it's righty loosey, lefty tighty, but that's another subject. Yeah, not all techs are mechanics. You're right, Dale. They aren't. I have worked with some very, very good techs. The guys that I hung out with as a kid were gearheads. You know, they could make, you know, they could make a car run with bubble gum and you know, 2 matchsticks. They didn't need instruction manuals. They were like, take it apart, see what it looks like, see what's broken, put it back together, and you know. A lot of good stories in the shop growing up. The guys I hung out with, they ran top fuel drag cars from the 60s, nostalgia drag racing. So fuel cars, AA fuel dragsters, slingshot dragsters, front engine dragsters with Hemi power, direct drive. That's what I worked on when I was 16. It was kind of interesting. So we got a good chat rolling. My sister-in-law Michelle said hello earlier. This is going way back, and this is, I apologize, this is part of the looking at comments from before. Next spec is here, Leland Davidson. I think I mentioned that before. My dad is here. My brother's here. And my niece. Holy smokes. right, so yeah, Dale said that his old wrench tuner asked me how to tune with a laptop and lost. I agree. I grew up essentially at the tail end of carburetors and the beginning of fuel injection. So when I started working on cars, most of them had carburetors still, but fuel injection was coming in, and I figured, well, I'd learn fuel injection. I know enough about both to be dangerous, I always say. Especially now, the cars at the dealership, where I work in a dealership, and not as a technician, I worked at service desk and service manager. But anyways, cars nowadays, my most favorite example, had a customer come in with a late model Volvo. Customer says, my window stopped working, my driver's side window stopped working. Okay, so I wrote it up, customer states, driver's side window inoperative. Technician comes back to me with a quote for a driver's seat module. I'm like, it's not the seat, it's the window that doesn't work. He's like, you didn't hear me. It needs a driver's seat module. I'm like, okay, riddle me this. How, when I push the down button on the window switch, it sends power or doesn't send power to the driver's side window motor, send it down, and when I push up, it goes up. He's like, this isn't 1950. It's now the smart switch sends a signal to the body control module saying the driver wants to put the window down. The body control module sends a signal to the driver's door module, and the driver's door module sends power to the driver's door window to go down. Except none of that happens because the driver's seat module is shorted out and blocked the LIN bus, which is data link, which is the internet for the car, and none of them can communicate. So the driver's seat module needs to be replaced so your driver's window will work. I said, I give up. This is ridiculous. So that's the stuff that these guys are dealing with today. It is absolutely kind of ridiculous in a way. We talked about the heater controls. The heater controls are now part of the center stack, the instrument. Basically, it's an instrument control panel in the center dash that operates a whole litany of things, communicating with the body control module and every other thing in the car. Audio module, the amplifier if it has it. There's an antenna module sometimes. The antenna module includes like the GPS and the cellular communications a lot of times. So they all work together. So if your radio goes bad, your heater doesn't work, your fan doesn't work, none of your heater controls work. So cars that are modern are way, 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 way more overly complicated than they need to be. Yeah, shin bone is connected to the thigh bone. Yeah, exactly. All right, Shopcat. He fixes transit buses, so we got the diesel connection there. Well, assuming they're diesel. Cummins, don't get me started on Cummins. Not let us check codes or update ECM calibrations, but for emissions reasons, we are definitely not allowed to tune the engines. Yeah, I know, and this is where my customers that I became friends with over the years, I knew a lot of the smaller trucking companies, they, to get around the emissions. So the last part of my 11 years working at the truck dealership, basically my bills were paid because of the emissions problems that the new diesel engines have. And I say new, so 2007 and up. So all the emissions controls, the DPF, or the diesel particulate filter, that stops the soot going in the air, and the SCR, which is selective catalyst reduction. All the problems associated with that paid our bills here. basically, because if you had a problem with one of those systems, you were talking $7,000 to $15,000 to fix a truck that the emission system was jammed up in. Shopcat, you may be able to speak to that. You probably deal with plugged DPFs and whatnot. Jason, so would it be ideal in what today's technology that we can build a car that resembles 1980 features but still fuel efficient without the bells and whistles and make it affordable? I agree. I said for the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, if somebody came out with a car with bench seats, crank windows, and the bare bones, they'd sell 1 million of them. That's why cars are $50,000, $100,000 now. People have to spend that kind of money to go down the road. The oil and the technology in terms of the mechanical side of things has greatly increased in the years that I've worked on cars. So modern cars last longer, run more efficient, they do all that thing, but all the added features, blind spot monitor, backup sensors, collision avoidance. My wife's car's got basically the thing will drive itself down the road. Literally, you like put on a Super Cruise or whatever I think it's called, and the thing steers between the lanes. It has cameras, it detects the lanes, and it drives you down the road. All that stuff is really great, but all that stuff is really, really, really very intricate and tied to things that make it very difficult to work on. You need a laptop basically and anything new to work on them for the most part. I was at Hyundai for a while. Hyundai, the data link was tied to the backup camera. The backup camera would short out. It caused a litany of things up to and including the car won't run because the backup camera shorted out. You're like, hey, your car got towed in because it won't run. And you find out the backup camera is bad. How crazy is that, right? And the backup cameras aren't cheap, even though that you can buy a backup camera system for like $40 on eBay and retrofit an old 1980 car in that example. Let's see. Hook up the diagnostic machine. My brother said, hook up or is that my nephew? I don't know. They have the same name. Hook up the diagnostic machine, the 1936 engine, and see what codes you get. Yeah. So I have seen, you could technically, it would take some work, and there are systems out there, aftermarket stuff. You can actually hook up like modern fuel injection to an old flat engine like this. Is there any advantage to it? You can make this more fuel efficient. Some of the aftermarket systems will get a little bit, they're not as reliable as some of the factory systems. So I don't know if it makes sense, but you could hook up. So we're at Mark's shop, my buddy Mark's shop. He's got a 66 Chevy there. It's got points and condenser, just like this, ignition system. Those are reliable, but they require maintenance. Typically like every year or two, you got to change the points and condensers because it's an electrical switch that wears out. There's 2 contacts every time they open and close. Every cylinder that fires, they open and close. That wears the contacts out, and they require replacement over time. Modern ignition systems don't. It's not retrofitting, we're upgrading the ignition system on that to a breakerless, which is what points are a breaker system, to a breakerless, like electronic ignition, AGI essentially, to eliminate the need to work on the points as often. Let's see, Dale, our trucks require computers to run peak levels. The computers will keep causing issues. Yes, absolutely. Especially in this climate where we're in the Rust Belt, salt on the road, you get cut and insulation of wires, the wires rot out, causes a litany of problems. especially exhaust cleaning systems. Wish we could, yeah, take all that crap off. And that's what some of the customers that I dealt with at the truck dealership, they would take them into Canada. They would specifically buy Volvo trucks with Cummins engines, and somewhere they were getting, we think it was like Cummins genset software downloaded into their engine ECU, and it would just ignore the emission system, and then they would bore a hole right through the TPF. And none of that stuff worked. The engine would run forever, and the emission system was essentially disabled. And I'm not necessarily promoting that, but they found a way around it. They basically loaded in software for the engine that made the engine run and ignored the emission system, so it could essentially straight bug the truck. But you get into a whole bunch of laws. If you get caught doing something like that, the emissions law, especially on a diesel truck, is crazy. Let's see, Shopcat Industries. Problem is, even when they do a stripper model, it's an afterthought. So basically, you order a truck or a Boss or whatever stripped down, it's like an afterthought. So it's still set up for all this other stuff. We stay after Patriot, and the manual windows were clearly designed after the power window modules. Nowhere for your left knee to go. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, you know what was unique? At my buddy Mark's shop this week, he had a square body Chevy come in that the driver's window stopped working. It had power windows in it. There's a kit. I put it on the channel. I videoed it. There's a kit that you take the crank of the crank window off, and there's an electric motor and a thing that slides over where the crank goes, and there's a cable-driven electric motor to roll the window up and down. So instead of cranking them, the electric motor does it for you. It was kind of I thought it was kind of an ingenious way of getting power windows on a manual window old truck, but you know, reliability it was a cheap kit, and we found a replacement for it, but I don't know, it was neat. Okay, you have power windows now, but they're less reliable than the old manual, you know, crank the window down. Obviously, it's always easier to press a button than to crank the window down. I feel like I'm off with the chat here. Oh, we're pretty. I can sign in and type, but I'm talking, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay. We're coming up on the 7 o'clock hour, so we'll wrap this first official live stream up. I appreciate everyone coming and joining. It was pretty cool. I will upgrade the Studio JZ with some better lighting, maybe something that's less. I got shadows behind me. That's not professional operation. We're gonna do something maybe a little better for the audio, and hopefully this week we're gonna find out if this thing will crank all the way over. Now, the interesting thing about this engine, the flywheel is connected to the transmission in the transmission bell housing. So that's why there is no flywheel on the back of this and no starter. The starter bolts to the transmission and the flywheel is inside the transmission. So the only way we can get this thing to run on the stand is to crank the engine over. Hopefully, because these are lower compression engines, I can get it to crank over off the front dampener bolt. And I got a couple of different ideas for that. It has a generator still on it. So maybe I can use electric motor or starter motor somehow with the V-belt and crank the engine over using the V-belt. And the V-belt's really wide. Like the V-belt, I've never seen one before. It's like, I would say 3/4 to an inch wide at the widest part, and coming down to like maybe a 1/2 inch. It's not like a tiny V-belt. It's like wide. It's like, you know, a normal V-belt that I'm used to from the 80s is you know, maybe a half inch at the widest part. This is like almost an inch. Should measure it out, but make a video of that. Pretty wild. All right. Thanks again for joining. Please hit the like button when you leave. We'll see you again next week. We'll plan on next Saturday doing another live stream. We'll give updates on this. And any ideas that you have for a live stream or for us, you know, communicating on live stream, please put it down in the comment section so I know what would be a good idea for you guys. All right? Thanks again. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to my production manager. And we're going to end the live stream once he presses the end live stream button. Have a good week. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow in chat.
Is it the center one?
Is there a red button to press?
Okay, there we go. No, let's, okay, there we go.